When it comes to questioning and predicting, basically you're making what we call an aim or a hypothesis, or both. And to do that, no matter what you do, you have to know what variables you are controlling, changing, and measuring. It always starts with your variables for any experiment. So in our example that we've been using, we have an experiment where we're comparing different dishwashing detergents, and each one of them has a different price range. And you're measuring how effective they are by seeing how much oil is left behind after you use them to wash away oil. So when it comes to questioning and predicting in this experiment, we can do two things. We can talk about an aim, which is just talking about what type of relationship we think we have there and why we think there might be a relationship. Or you can go even further and stick your neck out and make an educated guess as to what you think's going to happen, and that's called a hypothesis. So an aim would be to investigate the relationship between, in this case, the price of a detergent and its effectiveness in grams. And then to get the high level marks, you need to explain roughly why you think that's happening, and that depends on your year level. That will depend on what they've taught you and what sort of theory you've actually been given in class. But in this case it would be, say, this is because in the more expensive brands it's expected that they would have ingredients in them that are more effective at removing oil, and there would be more of these in the higher costing brands compared to the lower cost brands. So that would be roughly a good way of putting down your aim, with a little better English, of course. A hypothesis, however, is really sticking your neck out. Our students in this example believe that cost is a measure of quality, so they are actually going to be hypothesizing, and that's what I'm actually going to be showing you in this example. They're going to be hypothesizing that cost definitely has a relationship with quality, and as you increase the cost, you increase the quality. So let's go in and have a look. To get a basic pass on this, you have to show me that you can identify your independent and your dependent variable and put them in a research question. So you have to be able to identify, in this case, that we're changing the cost of the detergent and we're measuring it by looking at how much oil is left over. That's what you need for the C level. For the B and the A level, you need to be able to go in there and show me that you can make plausible predictions, that you can try and justify them. You can try and explain to me why you think it might be happening. You can give me some scientific explanation as to why you've made this hypothesis or this aim. So we're going to go into that and look closer at an example for you to actually have a look at how to mark your own work or give feedback to someone else. So in this example here, we've got these kids, they're investigating the dishwashing detergent. They've got their variables and they believe that cost is a measure of quality. So in their hypothesis, they're saying that as the cost increases, you're definitely going to get a better quality detergent. You're going to have more oil removed and less left over as you measure it. So let's look at the key differences. For a C level, now remember, hypothesis, you need to stick your neck out. You need to make a prediction. So they not only show me the independent variable and the dependent variable, they also give me an idea as to which direction they think each will go in relation to each other. And in this case, the kids think that as you increase your independent variable, which is the cost, that your dependent variable, which you're measuring, so what are they measuring? They're measuring how much oil is left over. Okay, so the amount of oil left over is apparently going to reduce as you increase your cost. That's their hypothesis. As long as you have that, you'll get a C. So let's see how they put that into words. As the cost of the detergent, there's my independent variable, increases, there's my directionality, the amount of oil left over, there's my dependent variable, will reduce. There's my directionality. That's what you need for a C-level hypothesis. For an aim, all you do is actually get rid of the directionality and you've pretty much got an aim, as that the cost of the detergent will affect the amount of oil left over. Now for a B and an A level, you actually have to explain the scientific theory as to why you're making this prediction. The difference is basically the level of detail given in the theory. So for a B level, I'll put it up here, I've added in some I can statements to try and help you define the difference between them. There's some scientific explanation, but it's not exactly detailed. And for an A level, you need to, depending on how much the teacher has actually taught you, use that detail to explain what is happening and why it might be causing an effect. So the level of detail you have here has to match the level of detail that your teacher has gone to in your lessons for the A-level response. And of course that depends on what you're being taught at the time. So in this case, these guys actually have been taught about different types of molecules which actually interact with oils and help separate them so that they can be washed away. So unless you actually talk to me about those particles, you're not going to get the A-level response. So for a B, they've told me that more expensive detergents contain more ingredients and that those ingredients break down oil. That's an introduction. It does actually point to me that they know what they're talking about, but they haven't gone into much detail. Now for the A level, these guys have actually been taught about particles called surfactants and other compounds that interfere with the attractive forces between oil particles, so they can't hold together anymore in a great big clump of oil, and therefore they're able to be pulled away by water. So that's what they need to actually talk to me about in the case of their A-level response in their hypothesis. So they've said here, the more expensive detergents should or might or would, or in this case they're saying definitely, they're taking a chance here, contain more surfactants, because even the cheap ones have some, and other compounds, so they're saying there might be other things in there that help as well, which interfere with the oil particles and pull them apart so they can be washed away with water. Now it's not the perfect A-level response there, but it's pretty good for a grade 8er. So I would actually be giving an A-level mark to that. If they went into the highest level detail, that's even more than we'd expect from year 8, so we'd actually be giving them the higher mark.